esteem. Here's an expanded key point once written as a natural conversational 600-word segment for your speech, esteem, keeping the flow aligned with the other key points and in the style of Dr. Ramani's direct, empathetic delivery. Esteem. I want to start today by talking about something that so many of you have lived through, something that so often goes unseen and misunderstood. It's called narcissistic abuse, esteem. And if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, you know that the word abuse doesn't even begin to cover it. It's subtle, it's insidious, and most importantly, esteem. It doesn't look like what most people imagine when they hear the word. You're not always being screamed at. You're not always being physically hurt. Sometimes, esteem. It's far more quiet and corrosive. It's the slow erosion of your sense of self, the way your confidence, your joy, your sense of reality can be chipped away day by day, moment by moment. Esteem. When we talk about narcissistic abuse, it's crucial to understand that it's not about anger or temper tantrums. It's not about one bad fight or a single mean comment. It's about patterns, esteem. It's about behaviors that are consistent over time, behaviors that are designed to manipulate, control, and dominate. And if you've been on the receiving end of these behaviors, esteem, you've likely felt something very confusing, the mix of love and hurt, hope and despair, feeling attached and yet utterly drained at the same time. That confusion is not your fault, esteem. It's a hallmark of this kind of abuse. You see, narcissistic abuse often starts slowly, almost imperceptibly. In the beginning, there's charm, there's attention, you feel special, chosen, esteem, like this person is unlike anyone else you've ever met. And that's part of the trap. That initial idealization, the love bombing, is the first phase of the cycle, and it feels intoxicating, esteem. You're being drawn in, not just with kindness, but with a performance, a carefully constructed persona that hides the real intent. And once you're invested emotionally, esteem, once you've let your guard down, the subtle manipulation begins. It's never blunt. It's rarely overt. It's the small things that get inside your head, a backhanded compliment, esteem. A casual put-down disguised as a joke, the sense that you're always slightly off, slightly inadequate. Gaslighting is one of the cruelest parts of narcissistic abuse, esteem. Gaslighting is when the narcissist makes you question your own reality. When they deny things you know happened, twist facts, or insist that your feelings are irrational, esteem. You start to doubt yourself. You begin to ask, am I too sensitive? Did I really hear that? Maybe I'm overreacting. And let me tell you that self-doubt is exactly what they want, esteem. It's what keeps you hooked. It's what keeps you apologizing when you haven't done anything wrong, what keeps you constantly trying to fix something that can't be fixed. And here's the thing, esteem, this abuse isn't just emotional, it seeps into your physical and mental health. Survivors often experience anxiety, depression, insomnia, even physical ailments. Stress hormones spike, esteem. Immune systems are compromised, and yet, because this abuse doesn't leave bruises you can see, it's dismissed. People look at you and say, but they seem fine, esteem. You must be exaggerating, but you know better. You know how your stomach knots up at the sound of their voice, how your chest tightens when they walk into a room, esteem, how your mind endlessly replays interactions trying to make sense of it all. And that constant hypervigilance, that constant self-monitoring is exhausting, esteem. What I want you to understand today is that experiencing this doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're stupid or naive, esteem. Narcissists are masters of manipulation. They understand human psychology in a way most people don't. They know how to exploit vulnerabilities, how to trigger insecurities, esteem, how to push buttons in ways that feel personal but are actually strategic. And surviving that, even just showing up day after day, is a testament to your resilience, esteem. It's also important to understand that narcissistic abuse is often cyclical. There's a pattern to it: idealization, devaluation, discard, and sometimes, if the narcissist chooses hoovering, esteem, drawing you back in. The devaluation phase is where the subtle, cruel behaviors become more pronounced. Criticism, blame, insults, undermining, esteem. You begin to feel like nothing you do is ever enough. And when the discard comes, when the narcissist walks away, often abruptly or with seeming indifference, it leaves a void, esteem, a kind of grief that's unlike anything else. And here's the kicker: they may return seemingly changed, sometimes apologetic, sometimes claiming they've realized their mistakes, esteem. That's the hoovering phase, and if you've been caught in that cycle, you know it's disorienting, it's confusing, it's painful, and it's designed to keep you off balance, to keep you attached, esteem, to keep you hoping for a version of the person that doesn't exist. What survivors often don't realize is that this abuse is about power and control, not love, esteem. Narcissists are not capable of the empathy necessary for healthy relationships. They are not interested in genuine connection in the way you are. And understanding this truth, esteem, as painful as it is critical for breaking free. It's not about blaming yourself, it's about seeing clearly. Once you recognize the pattern, once you see the behaviors for what they are, esteem, you can begin to reclaim your perspective and eventually your life. Another thing to recognize is that narcissistic abuse can make you feel isolated. Esteem. The manipulations can extend beyond just the two of you. They often involve triangulation, spreading misinformation, creating conflicts with friends or family, esteem, and sowing distrust so that you feel alone. And the loneliness can be devastating. But you're not alone, even if it feels like the world doesn't understand what you're going through, esteem. There are others who do. There are others who have survived, and there is guidance and support to help you navigate through the confusion, the fear, and the pain, esteem. And I want to be really clear, healing from this abuse is not about forgetting what happened. It's not about pretending the experiences didn't leave a mark, esteem. Healing is about acknowledging what happened, understanding its impact on you, and gradually reclaiming your sense of self. It's about restoring your boundaries, rebuilding your confidence, esteem, and learning to trust your instincts again. And while that process takes time, it is absolutely possible. Every small step you take toward understanding and reclaiming yourself is a victory, esteem. Every moment you assert your worth, every time you recognize the manipulation for what it is, you are moving closer to freedom. Now, let me tell you this if you are here today, esteem. If you felt the confusion, the pain, the doubt, the fear, the hope, know that your feelings are valid. Your experiences are real, esteem. The fact that you survived this is not something to minimize, it is something to honor. And it is also the foundation for your healing. The first step toward freedom is understanding, esteem. The first step is recognizing the truth about the abuse, understanding that what you endured is real, and that your responses, anger, sadness, confusion, are completely justified, esteem. You are not crazy, and you are not alone. So today I want to leave you with this thought as we move into the rest of this conversation, esteem. The abuse you endured was not a reflection of your worth or your value. It was a reflection of the manipulator's strategies, not your deficiencies, esteem. Recognizing this is not just a step toward healing, it is the start of reclaiming your life. And as we continue, I want you to hold on to that truth, esteem. The first and most powerful act of survival is awareness. Understanding narcissistic abuse is the foundation on which everything else, healing, empowerment, and reclaiming your life, esteem, will be built. So remember this as you leave here today. The abuse may have been hidden, silent, and confusing, but your strength, your resilience, and your truth are louder, clearer, esteem, and undeniable. You survived, you endured, and now it's time to see yourself as the person who can thrive beyond the manipulation, beyond the hurt, and beyond the past. If you want, esteem, I can expand the rest of the key points into full speech segments in the same style, esteem. So you have a complete 6-part speech ready for live delivery that flows naturally and powerfully from start to finish. This will create a full, emotionally resonant talk for survivors, esteem. Do you want me to do that next? Absolutely. Here's a full key point 2 segment written in the same style, approximately first and 600 words, conversational, emotionally resonant, esteem, and aligned with the previous section. Q. Now that we've talked about what narcissistic abuse looks like and how it operates, let's address one of the questions that comes up the most, esteem. And it's one that survivors themselves often struggle with. Why do people stay in narcissistic relationships? Why do they keep going back, even when the pain is obvious, esteem? And I want to be really honest with you today, because there's a lot of judgment and misunderstanding around this, and it's time we set the record straight. When you hear someone say, esteem, why don't they just leave? It can feel like a personal accusation, but here's the truth: leaving is never as simple as it sounds. It's never a matter of just packing up and walking out, esteem. When you've been involved with a narcissist, you've been subject to a systematic form of manipulation that reshapes the way you see yourself, the world, and even the relationship itself, esteem. You've been trained, almost without realizing it, to doubt your own judgment, to minimize your needs, to prioritize the other person over your own sense of reality, esteem. So when someone asks why a survivor stays, the answer is not a simple one. It's layered, complex, and deeply human, esteem. One of the biggest reasons people stay is what I call the hook of intermittent reinforcement. This is a psychological principle, but it shows up every day in narcissistic relationships, esteem. You know what I'm talking about, the way the narcissist alternates between moments of warmth, affection, and seeming love, and moments of coldness, criticism, or withdrawal, esteem. It's like a roller coaster for your emotions. You feel exhilarated during the highs and desperate during the lows, and your mind starts to crave those highs, esteem, to cling to the hope that the love and attention you experienced before will return. That cycle is incredibly powerful. It creates a kind of dependency, esteem. a psychological bond that feels impossible to break even when the relationship is causing pain. And the highs are not trivial, they are often intense and intoxicating. Esteem. The narcissist knows exactly how to make you feel special, seen, admired. And when that fades into the lows, you feel the void, the loss, the longing. And in that longing, esteem, you convince yourself, if I just try harder, if I just understand them better, if I just love them enough, maybe they'll come back. And that thinking is natural, it's human, esteem. But it's also exactly what keeps people stuck. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are responding to a sophisticated pattern of psychological conditioning. Esteem. Another reason people stay is fear. And I don't mean fear in some abstract sense. I mean very real, concrete fear, fear of being alone. Fear of what life will look like without the narcissist. Esteem. Fear of judgment from friends, family, or society. Sometimes fear comes from the narcissist themselves. They might threaten you, undermine your support network, esteem, or make you feel unsafe emotionally, financially, or even physically. And when fear is in the mix, rational decisions become incredibly difficult. You may feel trapped, esteem, like there is no viable way out. And that feeling can persist even when the relationship is toxic beyond measure. People also stay because of self-doubt, esteem, which the narcissist often instills deliberately. Through criticism, gaslighting, blame shifting, and subtle put-downs, the narcissist creates a sense of inadequacy in you. Over time, esteem. You may begin to question your own worth, your judgment, your instincts. You may think, I must be overreacting. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe if I were better, esteem, this wouldn't happen. And that internalization is a trap. It's not a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of the narcissist's tactics. But while you're inside it, esteem, it can feel impossible to trust yourself, impossible to imagine a life outside of the relationship, impossible to break free, esteem. Then there's the societal and cultural pressure that many survivors face. From the outside, people often see the relationship differently than you do, esteem. Friends and family may minimize what's happening, encourage you to forgive, or even blame you for the problems. They may say, relationships take work, or esteem. You can't just give up. And while they mean well, these messages can reinforce the survivor's sense of responsibility for the narcissist's behavior, making it harder to leave, esteem. Survivors are often caught between the reality they feel and the expectations they see from others, and that tension adds another layer of complexity to their decision-making, esteem. Let's also talk about hope, because hope is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the most human and understandable reasons survivors stay. We all hope for love, for transformation, esteem, for the possibility that the person we see when they are kind and attentive is the real person. And in narcissistic relationships, that hope is carefully nurtured, esteem. The narcissist may promise change, may apologize, may give glimpses of vulnerability. But here's the crucial point: these moments are strategic. They are designed to draw you back in, esteem, to reignite attachment, to prevent closure. And when you hold on to hope, it can feel like you're doing the right thing, like you're being patient and compassionate. But in reality, esteem, hope can become a chain if it's tethered to someone incapable of genuine change. Another factor that keeps survivors in place is identity entanglement. When you're with a narcissist, esteem, your sense of self can become entangled with the relationship. You might define yourself by the approval you receive, by your role in the relationship, esteem, by the ways you try to please and accommodate. And over time, it can feel like leaving the narcissist is leaving a part of yourself behind. You may worry that without them, esteem, you won't know who you are, or that you'll lose the sense of purpose you've constructed around them. And untangling that identity takes courage, awareness, and support, esteem. It doesn't happen overnight. And yet, despite all of these forces, the intermittent highs, the fear, the self-doubt, the hope, the entanglement, people do leave. Survivors find their strength, esteem, often in stages, often with setbacks along the way. It's not a failure if leaving is difficult. It's not a failure if you try and return once or twice. Esteem, every step toward clarity and self-preservation is a victory. And understanding why you stayed for so long is not about shame, it's about insight, esteem. It's about seeing clearly what the dynamics were, why the bond was so compelling, and how you can protect yourself moving forward. I want you to hear me clearly on this point, esteem. Staying in a narcissistic relationship does not reflect weakness, laziness, or stupidity. It reflects the reality of the situation. Narcissistic manipulation is sophisticated, esteem. It preys on natural human emotions, love, hope, fear, attachment, and surviving it requires more resilience than many people recognize. You stayed because you were human, because you hope, esteem, because you loved, and surviving that is worthy of recognition, not judgment. The truth I want to leave you with today is this: understanding why survivors stay is crucial for your healing, esteem. You need to understand the dynamics of the abuse, the power of manipulation, the ways in which hope, fear and doubt were used against you, not so that you blame yourself, esteem, but so that you can reclaim your agency. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. Understanding is the first step toward reclaiming your life. And once you understand, esteem, you begin to see the path forward, one that is rooted in your needs, your boundaries, and your dignity. You stayed because it was human to do so. And now, esteem, the most important thing is to move toward understanding, toward clarity, toward the space where you can make choices for yourself, not out of manipulation, not out of fear, esteem, but out of truth and self-respect. And that path is possible. It starts with awareness and it grows with courage. And it doesn't happen all at once, esteem, but every step you take is a step away from manipulation and a step toward reclaiming your life. So as we continue to talk today, remember this: there is no shame in having stayed, esteem. There is only power in understanding why and strength in choosing to move forward. Because once you understand the forces that kept you there, you no longer have to be held by them, esteem. You are free to reclaim your own story on your own terms. And here's the line I want you to carry with you: you stayed because you were human, but now, esteem, you will move forward because you are strong. If you like, I can continue with this key point 3, expanding it to 600 words in the same voice and style, esteem, so your speech will keep building momentum and flow seamlessly for live delivery. Do you want me to do that next? Absolutely! Here's a fully expanded as key point 30 segment, approximately 1, esteem. 600 words, conversational, emotionally resonant, and aligned with the previous key points for a live speech. By now, you've started to see the patterns, the cycles, esteem, and the forces that keep someone trapped in a narcissistic relationship. You've seen how abuse can quietly, subtly, and relentlessly erode your sense of self-esteem. And you've started to understand why people stay, why hope, fear, and self-doubt can keep someone tethered to someone who doesn't have their best interest at heart, esteem. But there's another truth I need to speak plainly about today, the truth about the narcissists themselves. And this is a truth that survivors often resist at first, because it's uncomfortable, esteem, even painful to accept. But it is the foundation for real healing, and it is the cornerstone of reclaiming your life. Here's the reality: narcissists rarely, if ever, change, esteem. This is not about wishing them well, or hoping they'll grow, or clinging to the idea that love or kindness will eventually transform them. Narcissists are experts at appearing charming, esteem, appearing vulnerable, and even appearing remorseful, but that is a performance. The deep patterns that drive their behavior, the lack of empathy, the compulsion to control, esteem, the need to manipulate, these are not things that can be fixed by your love, your patience, or your understanding. They are part of who they are. And let me be clear, esteem, recognizing this truth is not cruel. It is necessary. When survivors cling to the hope that the narcissist will suddenly become capable of healthy love, esteem, they set themselves up for repeated cycles of disappointment, hurt, and confusion. They hope for a version of the person that does not exist. And it is not your job, ever, esteem, to teach them empathy, to repair their character, or to make them whole. That is a trap, and it is one that many survivors fall into repeatedly, because empathy is a strength, not a weakness, esteem. You want to see the best in people. You want to believe in their capacity to change. But the narcissist has learned how to exploit that goodness in you, esteem. It is also important to recognize that narcissists are not just difficult, they are calculated. They understand human emotions on a level that many of us don't. They know how to read you, esteem, how to anticipate your reactions, how to create doubt and dependency. And their actions, while sometimes subtle, are deliberate. Every act of criticism, every withdrawal, every lie, esteem, every manipulation is intentional. It is meant to maintain control, to assert power, and to preserve their own self-image at the expense of yours, esteem. This is why understanding the narcissist's nature is so critical. If you don't see clearly who you are dealing with, you remain vulnerable to the same patterns again and again. Now, esteem, let's talk about empathy, because this is often the hardest truth to hear. Narcissists do not have the capacity for empathy in the way that a healthy person does, esteem. They cannot truly feel your pain, your fear, your sadness, or your joy. They may mimic it, use it, or exploit it, but they cannot truly inhabit your experience, esteem. And that is not a reflection on you, it is a reflection on them. One of the most painful experiences for survivors is realizing that the connection they craved, the understanding they sought, esteem, was never possible. And yet, you can grieve that loss while also knowing that it was never your responsibility to fulfill it, esteem. The danger of not accepting this truth is that survivors can become trapped in cycles of hope and disappointment. They may forgive, rationalize, and make excuses repeatedly, esteem. They may keep trying to teach the narcissist to be the partner they want, the partner they deserve. And each time they are met with the same patterns, the charm, the manipulation, esteem. the withdrawal, the disregard. Recognizing that this is not about you, that this is about the narcissist's limitations, is liberating. It is the first step toward breaking free, esteem. It is the first step toward reclaiming your life. Another crucial part of this truth is understanding that narcissists often cannot give what you need emotionally, esteem. You may long for consistency, respect, understanding, and kindness. You may want reassurance, validation, and reciprocity. The narcissist may give fleeting glimpses of these things, esteem, and those glimpses can feel like hope, but they are not sustainable. They are tools of manipulation designed to keep you invested, to keep you engaged, to keep you hoping, esteem. And recognizing this is painful because it forces you to let go of the fantasy that the person you love is capable of healthy, reciprocal love. But it is also freeing, esteem, because it allows you to redirect your energy toward yourself, toward your healing, toward the life you deserve. It's also important to understand the narcissist's need for control, esteem. Narcissists are driven by an internal need to assert dominance, to be right, to maintain a certain image. Their sense of self is fragile, esteem, and they use relationships as a mirror to confirm their importance. When you see that clearly, it explains a lot of behaviors that may have seemed irrational or cruel, esteem. It is not your responsibility to manage their insecurities. It is not your responsibility to validate them constantly, esteem. Understanding this allows you to separate yourself from their demands and expectations and to reclaim the boundaries that were eroded over time. Let me address the idea of hope one more time, esteem, because it is so powerful and so seductive. Hope is natural and it is human. We all want to believe that people can change, esteem. But hope in the context of narcissistic abuse can be dangerous if it blinds you to reality. If you are hoping for a version of the narcissist that does not exist, esteem, you are setting yourself up for repeated disappointment. This is why clarity is so important. Clarity about the narcissist's nature, clarity about their limitations, esteem, clarity about what you truly deserve. When you see them for who they are, you stop giving away your energy to a fantasy. You stop chasing a mirage. And that clarity is not bitter, esteem. It is empowering. It is the key to moving forward. You may also notice that this realization brings anger, frustration, and even grief. And that is normal, esteem. It is natural to feel betrayed when you realize that the person you loved, the person you hoped would grow, the person you trusted was incapable of providing the love, care, esteem, and empathy you needed. Allow yourself to feel those emotions fully, without judgment. They are not signs of weakness, they are signs of awakening, esteem. They are the necessary processing of your experiences. And as you process them, you begin to reclaim your emotional independence, esteem. Recognizing the truth about the narcissist also helps you rebuild your trust in yourself. When you've been in a relationship with someone who gaslights you, manipulates you, esteem, and erodes your confidence, your sense of reality can feel shaky. You may doubt your instincts, your judgment, your memory. But as you see the narcissist for who they are, esteem, you start to reclaim your authority over your own perceptions. You start to trust yourself again. You start to say, I see this clearly. I understand what is happening, esteem. I am capable of making choices that honor my needs and my boundaries. And here's the most important part: once you accept this truth, esteem, you can begin to stop blaming yourself for what happened. Survivors often carry guilt, shame, and self-criticism, believing that they somehow caused the abuse, that they stayed too long, esteem, that they should have known better. And while it is human to reflect and learn, it is crucial to recognize that the abuse was never your fault, esteem. The narcissist's behavior is not a reflection of your worth or your value. It is a reflection of their own patterns, limitations, and choices. Once you internalize that, esteem, you free yourself from the cycle of self-blame and step fully into self-compassion. This clarity also allows you to make empowered choices moving forward, esteem. When you understand the narcissist's nature, you can set firm boundaries. You can disengage emotionally. You can stop giving them the power to dictate your emotional state, esteem. And you can start focusing on relationships and environments that are nurturing, reciprocal, and respectful. The first step toward freedom is seeing clearly, esteem. The second step is acting in alignment with that truth. And every small act of boundary setting, every moment of self-care, every decision to honor your own needs, esteem, is a declaration of independence. Finally, let me say this: seeing the narcissist for who they are is not about bitterness or revenge. It is about truth, esteem. It is about reclaiming your perspective, reclaiming your power, and reclaiming your life. It is about understanding that the love, respect, esteem, and empathy you deserve cannot come from someone incapable of giving it, and that you have the strength, the wisdom, and the resilience to seek it elsewhere, in yourself, esteem, in healthy relationships, and in the life you are building for yourself. So, as you continue on your journey, carry this truth with you: the narcissist is not broken by your absence, esteem, and they are not capable of giving what you need. That realization is not cruel, it is liberating. It is the foundation for your healing, your empowerment, and your freedom, esteem. And once you hold this truth, you no longer have to chase hope or justify. You can focus entirely on yourself, on your growth, and on the life that honors your worth, esteem. And here is the line I want you to carry with you today: the narcissist cannot give you what you need, but you can give it to yourself, and that is where your freedom begins. If you want esteem, I can move on to key point 4, also expanding it to a full 600-word segment in the same style so your entire speech remains cohesive, natural, esteem, and emotionally powerful from start to finish. Do you want me to do that next? Absolutely. Here's as key point 4's fully expanded to approximately 600 words, written in a natural, esteem, conversational style aligned with the previous points, and in the voice of Dr. Ramani delivering live. Esteem. Now that you've begun to understand the patterns of abuse and the reality of the narcissist's limitations, it's time to turn to a topic that is both essential and empowering: esteem, the journey of healing. And I want to be really clear from the start: healing is not a single event. It's not a magic moment where everything suddenly feels better. It's a process, esteem, a series of steps, sometimes small, sometimes painstaking, sometimes messy, and it requires patience, courage, and self-compassion. Healing begins with awareness, esteem, which you've already started cultivating. Awareness is the foundation because you can't heal from something you don't recognize. You've already seen the cycles, the manipulations, esteem, the patterns, the hooks. That's an incredible first step. And from here, healing is about understanding the impact this relationship has had on you, esteem, and giving yourself permission to process that impact fully. One of the first and most important aspects of healing is acknowledging the pain you've endured, esteem. Survivors often minimize their suffering, telling themselves, "It wasn't that bad," or comparing their experiences to others. But your experience is valid, and it deserves recognition, esteem. You may have felt shame, confusion, anxiety, sadness, anger, or even numbness. All of these responses are natural reactions to trauma. They are your mind and body trying to protect you, esteem, to make sense of a situation that was often incomprehensible. Allow yourself to feel without judgment. Give yourself permission to grieve the losses, esteem. The emotional connection you thought you had, the time and energy you invested, and the version of life you imagined for yourself. Grieving is not weakness. Grieving is essential, esteem. It is the soil from which healing grows. Another key element of healing is reclaiming your boundaries. During a narcissistic relationship, boundaries were often ignored, violated, esteem, or manipulated. Part of healing is learning to define what is acceptable, what is not, and to enforce that with clarity and consistency. This can be uncomfortable at first, esteem, because for so long you may have been taught, implicitly or explicitly, that your needs were less important than the narcissist's demands, esteem. You may feel guilt or fear when asserting boundaries. But here's the truth: boundaries are not punishments. They are declarations of self-respect, esteem. They are signals to yourself and the world that your emotional and psychological well-being matters. And every time you assert a boundary, esteem, you are strengthening your sense of self and reclaiming your autonomy. Self-care is another pillar of healing, but I want to emphasize that self-care is not just bubble baths and chocolate, esteem, as pleasant as those things are. Self-care in this context is about rebuilding the parts of yourself that were eroded by the abuse. It is about nurturing your mind, your body, and your spirit, esteem. It is about listening to your feelings, honoring your needs, and doing things that remind you that you matter, esteem. It could mean seeking therapy with someone trained in trauma or narcissistic abuse. It could mean journaling, meditating, exercising, esteem, or reconnecting with hobbies and passions that were set aside. It could mean spending time with people who validate and support you. These acts of self-care are not indulgent, esteem. They are essential for your recovery. They are acts of courage because each one reminds you that your life is worth caring for. Support is also crucial in this journey, esteem. Healing from narcissistic abuse is not something you should do alone. Survivors often feel isolated, either because the narcissist worked to sever their support systems, esteem, or because friends and family don't fully understand the dynamics at play. Support can come in many forms: therapy, support groups, trusted friends, mentors, esteem, or even online communities of survivors who have been through similar experiences. Being seen, heard, and understood is incredibly validating. It reminds you that your reality is real, esteem. Your feelings are valid and you are not alone. Sharing your story, even in small ways, can be transformative. It helps break the isolation and reinforces that you are reclaiming your voice, esteem. One of the most challenging aspects of healing is addressing the self-blame and shame that often linger long after the relationship ends. Survivors frequently carry a heavy load of guilt, esteem. Why didn't I see it sooner? Why did I stay so long? What did I do wrong? And here's the painful but liberating truth: none of this was your fault. You were manipulated, deceived, esteemed, and hurt by someone who understood human vulnerability better than most. The blame belongs to the person who perpetrated the abuse, not to you. Part of healing is internalizing that truth, esteem over and over if necessary, until the guilt begins to lift and self-compassion takes its place. Healing also requires confronting your emotions honestly, without avoidance. Esteem. Many survivors develop coping mechanisms that involve numbing, distracting, or suppressing feelings to survive day-to-day life with a narcissist. Esteem. But those same mechanisms can hinder healing if they prevent you from fully processing your experiences. It is okay to feel anger, sadness, grief, fear, or even relief. Esteem. All of these emotions are valid. All of these emotions are signals that your mind and body are recalibrating. Allow yourself to experience them fully, without judgment. Esteem. And remember that emotions are not permanent, they flow, and with awareness and care, they lose their power to control you. Another important component of healing is rebuilding trust, esteem, both in yourself and in others. When you've been gaslit, manipulated, and undermined, your instincts may feel unreliable. You may doubt your ability to judge people, situations, esteem, and even your own feelings. Rebuilding trust starts with listening to yourself again. Trust your instincts. Trust your emotions. Start with small decisions, small boundaries, esteem, small acts of self-respect, and notice that you are capable of making choices that honor your needs. Over time, as you practice self-trust, esteem, you'll also learn to engage with the world and others in ways that feel safe and authentic. It's also critical to recognize that healing is not linear. There will be setbacks, esteem, moments of doubt, flashbacks, or lingering pain, and that is normal. Healing from narcissistic abuse is a marathon, not a sprint. Sometimes, esteem, you will feel as though you've taken one step forward and two steps back. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are human and that the process is complex. Patience, persistence, esteem, and self-compassion are essential companions on this journey. Celebrate the small victories. Every time you assert a boundary, every time you recognize a manipulation, esteem, every time you reclaim your time, energy, or confidence, you are making progress. Part of the healing journey is also learning to forgive yourself. Not the narcissist, not yet, but yourself. Esteem. Forgive yourself for not seeing the manipulation sooner, for staying longer than you wanted, for doubting your instincts. Forgiveness in this context is not about excusing the harm done, esteem. It is about releasing the weight of self-blame and reclaiming emotional freedom. Forgiving yourself creates space to rebuild your life on your terms, to prioritize your own needs, esteem, and to cultivate relationships that honor your worth. Healing is also about rediscovering joy, curiosity, and purpose. When you've been in a narcissistic relationship, esteem, your world can shrink to a narrow focus on survival, on walking on eggshells, on navigating the manipulations. Recovery is about expanding your world again, esteem. It's about reconnecting with the parts of yourself that were set aside. It's about finding activities, people, and experiences that make your heart feel alive again. Joy is not trivial, esteem. Joy is a declaration that you are reclaiming your life. It is a sign that you are moving from survival to thriving. Finally, healing is about integration, esteem. It's about taking all that you've learned about yourself, about human behavior, about boundaries, about resilience, and weaving it into the fabric of your daily life, esteem. It's about creating a new relationship with yourself and the world, one that prioritizes authenticity, self-respect, and emotional safety. Integration is the culmination of awareness, esteem, reflection, growth, and self-compassion. It's the point at which you no longer define yourself by the abuse or the manipulator, but by your own values, choices, and strength. So, esteem. As we reflect on the journey of healing, remember this: healing is not about forgetting. Healing is about reclaiming your life, your boundaries, your sense of self, and your capacity to trust, esteem, feel, and thrive. It's about understanding the impact of the abuse, honoring your experiences, and making conscious choices to care for yourself, to set boundaries, esteem, and to surround yourself with people and environments that nurture your growth. It is a journey, yes, but it is also a journey filled with empowerment, self-discovery, esteem, and the reclamation of your voice and your autonomy. And here's the line I want you to take with you today: healing is not forgetting the past, but reclaiming your life from it, esteem. And in doing so, discovering the strength, resilience, and joy that has always been yours. If you like, I can now move on to a key point fifth asana, expanding it into a full one, esteem, 600-word segment in the same voice and style, ensuring your speech continues seamlessly with the momentum, emotion, and clarity you've built so far. Do you want me to do that next, esteem? Here's a key point 5 stars fully expanded to approximately 600 words, written in the same conversational, empowering, and lived delivery style, esteem, fully aligned with your previous points, esteem. By now, you've begun to understand the patterns of narcissistic abuse, why people stay, and the truth about the narcissist. Esteem. You've explored the journey of healing and the importance of processing your emotions, rebuilding boundaries, and reclaiming your sense of self. And now, Esteem, I want to take the next crucial step with you, the step of reclaiming your power. Because healing is important, yes, but without reclaiming your power, the healing can feel incomplete. Esteem. True freedom comes when you not only survive, but when you learn to thrive, when you assert your agency, and when you take back control of your life. Esteem. Reclaiming your power begins with understanding that it was never truly lost. The narcissist may have tried to manipulate you, gaslight you, and erode your confidence, esteem, but your strength has always been within you. It may have been buried under confusion, doubt, fear, and manipulation, but it was never gone, esteem. And recognizing that you still have the ability to make choices, to assert boundaries, and to protect your emotional well-being is the first step toward true empowerment, esteem. One of the most fundamental ways to reclaim your power is by setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are not optional, they are essential. Esteem. They are the framework that allows you to live on your terms. For survivors, this means identifying what is acceptable and unacceptable in relationships, communication, esteem, and interactions with others. It means saying no without guilt, asserting your needs, and refusing to tolerate manipulation, criticism, or disrespect. Esteem. Boundaries are not about controlling others, they are about controlling your own life, your own energy, and your own well-being. And the more consistently you enforce them, esteem, the stronger and more empowered you feel. Reclaiming power also means learning to trust yourself again. After a narcissistic relationship, your instincts may feel compromised. Gaslighting and criticism and manipulation can make you doubt your judgment. You may ask yourself, did I see that clearly? Or, am I overreacting? Rebuilding self-trust takes conscious effort, esteem. It begins with listening to your feelings and honoring them, even in small ways. If something feels off, it is. If you feel hurt, validate that hurt. If you need space, take it, esteem. Every time you honor your instincts, you rebuild your confidence, your clarity, and your sense of personal authority. Trusting yourself is a radical act of empowerment, esteem. Another way to reclaim your power is by controlling your narrative. Narcissists are skilled at rewriting reality, spreading misinformation, and keeping you trapped in shame or self-doubt, esteem. Reclaiming your narrative means telling your story in your own words, without fear of judgment, without minimization, and without distortion. It means acknowledging your experiences honestly, esteem, validating your feelings, and refusing to let the manipulator define your reality. By owning your story, esteem, you stop being a passive participant in your life and become an active agent of your truth. Empowerment also comes from reclaiming your time and energy. During narcissistic relationships, esteem, so much of your emotional, mental, and even physical energy was consumed by trying to manage the narcissist's moods, behaviors, and manipulations. Reclaiming your power means saying, esteem, no more. It means prioritizing yourself, your needs, and your goals. It means choosing how you spend your time and with whom, esteem. And it means protecting your energy from people or situations that are toxic or draining. Every decision to prioritize yourself is a declaration of power, esteem. It reinforces the truth that your life and your well-being are valuable. Reclaiming your power is also about reconnecting with your sense of identity. Esteem. Narcissistic abuse often leaves survivors feeling fragmented or diminished, unsure of who they are outside of the relationship. Part of empowerment is rediscovering who you are, esteem, independent of the narcissist's influence. What are your passions, your strengths, your values? What brings you joy and fulfillment? What kind of life do you want to create for yourself, esteem? Rediscovering and nurturing these aspects of yourself restores your autonomy and gives you a sense of purpose that is entirely your own. Part of reclaiming power is also learning to say no, esteem, not just to the narcissist, but to anyone or anything that disrespects your boundaries, diminishes your self-worth, or drains your energy. Saying no is not selfish, it is self-respect, esteem. And it is a skill that many survivors need to practice, because the narcissist often conditioned you to put their needs above your own, esteem. Every time you say no to something that does not serve you, you reclaim a piece of yourself that may have been lost. You assert your values, you honor your priorities, esteem. You remind yourself that you are in charge of your own life. Reclaiming your power is also about cultivating emotional independence, esteem. Emotional independence does not mean isolation or shutting off from others. It means learning to validate yourself, to care for your emotional needs, esteem, and to stop relying on others for your sense of worth. It means giving yourself permission to feel, to heal, esteem, and to grow without waiting for approval or validation from the narcissist or anyone else. When you cultivate emotional independence, esteem, you reduce the influence of manipulators in your life and increase your ability to make decisions that honor your well-being. Another critical aspect of reclaiming power is forgiveness, esteem. Not forgiveness of the narcissist, at least not right away, but forgiveness of yourself. Many survivors carry guilt, shame, and regret for having stayed in the relationship, esteem, for having been manipulated, or for having doubted themselves. Forgiving yourself is an act of empowerment. It releases the weight of self-blame, it affirms that your experiences were valid, esteem, and it allows you to move forward with clarity and confidence. Self-forgiveness is not a one-time event, it is a practice, a commitment to treat yourself with compassion and respect, esteem. No matter what the past holds, reclaiming your power also involves making conscious choices about your future relationships, esteem. Survivors have the opportunity to redefine the standards for how they are treated, what is acceptable, and what is non-negotiable. This is not about vengeance or distrust, it is about clarity. Esteem, you now have the awareness to recognize red flags, to identify healthy partners, and to insist on reciprocity, respect, and empathy. Every time you apply these lessons, esteem, you assert your power and protect yourself from being manipulated again. Empowerment also comes from action. Thinking and reflecting are important, esteem. But reclaiming power requires taking concrete steps, steps that may feel uncomfortable at first. It could be leaving a toxic situation, cutting off contact, seeking therapy, esteem, joining a support group, or simply practicing assertiveness in small ways. Action reinforces awareness, strengthens confidence, and signals to yourself that you are capable of taking control. Esteem, every action, no matter how small, is a step toward freedom. Reclaiming power also means embracing your voice. Narcissistic abuse often silences survivors, esteem, making them question their worth and discouraging them from expressing their feelings. Speaking up about your experiences, your boundaries, your values is a powerful form of empowerment, esteem. It reminds you that your opinions, your feelings, and your needs matter. It also signals to the world that you are no longer willing to be manipulated or silenced, esteem. Every time you speak your truth, you reclaim a piece of yourself that was diminished. Another part of reclaiming power is reconnecting with your intuition, esteem. Narcissistic relationships erode trust in your instincts, leaving you second-guessing yourself constantly. As you heal, you begin to notice patterns, recognize manipulations, esteem, and trust your gut feelings again. This reconnection to your intuition is profound. It is your internal compass guiding you towards safe, healthy, and fulfilling choices, esteem. Learning to trust yourself again is one of the most empowering steps you can take. And finally, reclaiming your power is about embracing your worth, esteem. Narcissistic abuse chips away at self-esteem, often leaving survivors doubting their value. But you are inherently worthy of love, respect, and kindness, esteem. Reclaiming your power means internalizing that truth, standing firm in it, and refusing to accept less. Every decision, boundary, action, esteem, and choice you make that honors your worth reinforces the truth that you are deserving of a life free from manipulation and abuse. The journey of reclaiming your power is not easy, esteem, and it is not linear. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and emotional challenges. But every step you take, every boundary you set, every action you take to protect yourself, esteem, every moment you trust your instincts is a declaration of your strength. It is a reaffirmation that your life belongs to you and not to the manipulator who tried to control it, esteem. So as we think about reclaiming our power, remember this: the journey is about more than survival. It is about thriving. It is about rediscovering yourself, asserting your agency, esteem, and living a life that honors your worth. It is about standing tall in the truth of who you are and refusing to let anyone diminish your light, esteem. And here is the line I want you to carry with you today: your power was never lost, and reclaiming it is your greatest act of freedom, self-respect, and courage. If you like, esteem, I can now expand key point 6, the final segment, in the same style to complete your full live delivery speech. This will ensure all 6 points flow seamlessly, emotionally, and logically, esteem, for maximum impact on your audience. Do you want me to do that next? Absolutely. Here's a key point 60, fully expanded to approximately 600 words, conversational, emotionally powerful, and aligned with all previous points, ready for live delivery. Key, esteem. Now, we arrive at the final truth I want to share with you today, the truth that I want every survivor in this room to hear clearly, fully, and without compromise, esteem. It is the truth that can shift everything about how you see yourself, your past, and your future. And the truth is simple: you are not broken, you are not at fault, esteem, and you are worthy of a life free from manipulation, fear, and control. You are a survivor, and your experiences, your feelings, and your strength matter. This truth is important because, esteem, after everything you've endured, it's easy to forget who you are beneath the layers of abuse. Narcissistic relationships are designed to erode your confidence, distort your reality, esteem, and make you question your worth. And even after the relationship ends, those messages can linger. You may catch yourself thinking, was I too sensitive? Was I overreacting? Esteem. Did I somehow deserve this? Let me tell you right now, none of that is true. The abuse you experienced was never your fault. The manipulator's behavior was a reflection of their limitations, esteem, their need for control, and their lack of empathy, not a reflection of your value. Part of hearing this truth is understanding that your pain is valid. Survivors often struggle with shame, esteem, wondering if they overreacted or if their experiences were bad enough to justify their feelings. There is no scale for suffering in abuse. Your pain is yours, and it is real, esteem. It does not need validation from anyone else. Allow yourself to feel it fully. Cry, rage, reflect, journal, meditate, whatever it takes to honor what you went through, esteem. By validating your own experience, you reclaim ownership of your story, and you take the first step towards self-empowerment. You also need to hear that your instincts are trustworthy, esteem. Narcissistic abuse is designed to make you doubt yourself, to question your perception of reality. Gaslighting, manipulation, and emotional coercion are all tools to erode self-trust, esteem. But the truth is, your feelings, your reactions, and your intuition were signals trying to protect you all along. When you start to honor those instincts, to listen to that inner voice, esteem, you begin to rebuild the connection to yourself that was so damaged. Your instincts are not failures, they are guides pointing you back to clarity, safety, and truth, esteem. Another part of this truth is that hope is a powerful tool when aligned with reality. Many survivors cling to hope in ways that keep them stuck in destructive cycles, esteem. But hope can also be a force for freedom. Hope for your own future, hope for the life you deserve, hope for the relationships that honor you. These are forces that drive healing, growth, esteem, and empowerment. When hope is grounded in your own agency rather than in the narcissist's capacity to change, it becomes a fuel for reclaiming your life rather than a trap, esteem. You also need to hear this: your voice matters. For too long, your feelings, your needs, and your truth may have been silenced or invalidated, esteem. Part of surviving abuse is surviving that silencing, and part of thriving afterward is reclaiming your voice. Speak your truth, assert your boundaries, esteem, and express your feelings without apology. Every time you speak for yourself, you reaffirm that your experience is valid, that your emotions are important, and that your life belongs to you, esteem. Speaking your truth is not only liberating, it is transformative. Empowerment comes too from self-compassion, esteem. Survivors often carry guilt and self-criticism long after leaving the relationship. You may replay conversations, blame yourself for not seeing the manipulation sooner, esteem, or question your judgment. Self-compassion is the antidote to that inner critic. It is the act of saying, I did the best I could with what I knew. I am worthy of love, respect, esteem, and care. Self-compassion is not indulgent, it is essential. It nurtures resilience, strengthens your sense of self-esteem, and allows you to engage with the world from a place of wholeness rather than deficit. Part of embracing this truth is also accepting that healing is not linear, esteem. There will be moments of doubt, moments of sadness, moments when the past feels close enough to touch, and that is normal. Healing is a journey, not a destination, esteem. The important thing is not to judge yourself for setbacks, but to notice them, learn from them, and continue moving forward. Each step, no matter how small, is progress, esteem. Every act of self-respect, every boundary you assert, every decision you make that honors your needs is a declaration that you are reclaiming your life, esteem. Another essential aspect is understanding that freedom is a process, not a single act. You may leave the narcissistic relationship physically, esteem, but the emotional and psychological recovery takes time. Reclaiming your power, restoring your sense of self, rebuilding trust in your own instincts, esteem, and learning to engage in healthy relationships, all of this is a process that unfolds gradually. And that's okay. The key is patience, persistence, and self-compassion, esteem. Healing does not have a timeline. Your progress is valid, even if it is slow. Survivors also need to hear that they are capable of joy, love, and connection again, esteem. Narcissistic relationships often leave survivors doubting their ability to trust, to love, or to be loved in a healthy way. But your capacity for joy and connection has not been lost, esteem. It may have been hidden, muted, or complicated by trauma, but it is still within you. By nurturing yourself, surrounding yourself with supportive people, esteem, and engaging in experiences that bring fulfillment, you reclaim the ability to live fully and authentically. You can experience joy, laughter, and love that is genuine and reciprocal, esteem. Relationships where your worth is recognized and celebrated rather than exploited. Another critical part of this truth is that boundaries are empowering. You may have heard it before, esteem, but it bears repeating. Your boundaries are not optional and they are not negotiable. They are a declaration of self-respect. By defining what you will and will not tolerate, esteem, you assert control over your life and protect your well-being. And the more consistently you enforce your boundaries, the more your sense of power grows. Every boundary is a statement, esteem. I matter. My needs matter. My life matters. Reclaiming your sense of agency also involves embracing your choices. Survivors often feel that their past decisions define them forever, esteem. But your past choices do not diminish your worth. They were made in the context of the information, experiences, and understanding you had at the time, esteem. What matters now is what you choose moving forward. Every conscious choice you make that prioritizes your well-being, dignity, and growth is a reclaiming of your power, esteem. You are not defined by the abuse, you are defined by your resilience, your courage, and your commitment to yourself. You also need to understand that healing is not selfish, esteem. Prioritizing yourself, protecting your energy, and asserting your needs is not only acceptable, it is essential. For too long, esteem. Narcissistic relationships teach you that your needs are secondary, irrelevant, or burdensome. Breaking free of that narrative is empowering. When you care for yourself, esteem, you model healthy self-respect. When you honor your needs, you reclaim your life. And when you cultivate your own well-being, you create the foundation for healthy relationships in the future, esteem. Part of embracing this truth is also learning to celebrate yourself. Every step you take toward healing, every boundary you assert, every time you trust yourself, esteem, every act of courage is worth acknowledgement. Celebrate your victories, both big and small. Recognize that the journey you've endured required immense resilience, esteem. Recognize that every day you move forward, you are proving to yourself that your life belongs to you and that your value is inherent, unshakable, and undeniable, esteem. Another essential truth is that your story matters. The experiences you have lived through, the pain you have endured, and the growth you are cultivating are meaningful, not just for you, esteem, but for others as well. By sharing your story, by offering your insight, you help others see what is possible. You provide validation, hope, and a roadmap for fellow survivors, esteem. Your experiences, when told honestly, become a source of empowerment not only for yourself but for others who may feel trapped, isolated, or powerless. Finally, this truth is about ownership, esteem. Ownership of your life, your choices, your emotions, your boundaries, and your future. It is about fully stepping into the role of the person who decides, who acts, esteem, and who prioritizes themselves. The narcissist cannot take this from you unless you allow it. You have the capacity to reclaim every piece of yourself that was diminished. Esteem, you have the ability to create the life you deserve, one that is free from manipulation, full of authenticity, and rooted in your inherent worth. So, as we conclude today, esteem, I want to leave you with this message: the abuse you experienced was never your fault. The pain you endured is real and valid. The hope, strength, and resilience you possess are extraordinary, esteem. And the power to reclaim your life, to honor your worth, and to live authentically has always been within you. You survived, and now you have the opportunity to thrive, esteem. And here is the line I want you to carry with you from this moment forward: you are not broken, you are not at fault, and your life, your worth, and your power are yours to claim, fully, esteem, unapologetically, and without compromise. If you want, I can now compile all 6 key points into a single cohesive speech, formatted for live delivery, esteem, with smooth transitions between points so it reads as one continuous, emotionally powerful, and audience-ready talk. This will give you the complete speech in one place. Esteem, do you want me to do that next?